Folks, let me tell you about a seller regretting accepting an offer. Then I'll get into the latest home prices and insights for the city of Toronto for week ending August 13th, 2025. If you want to speak directly with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Not long ago, we were working with the buyer and we put an offer on a property. The offer was conditional on financing and home inspection. And there was quite a bit that night that we put the offer in of going back and forth with the seller. At first, we were very, very far apart in price, but eventually we got a bit closer and it seemed, and I'm only going by what the agent's telling me on the other side, that the seller reluctantly, almost like he had, an arm behind his back, accepted our offer. So here we are, we're sold conditional. The next day, the agent calls me and says, seller has had a change of heart and no longer wants to sell. We're sold conditional. We have an agreement in place. The deposit went in the next morning, and that evening we're told, hey, the seller has changed their mind. Now, we do have a contract in place, and so I speak to my client, and I said, listen, here's the situation. This is what the other side has said, but we do have an agreement in place. Speak to your lawyer as to what the options are and what you want to do, but we do have an agreement in place if you want to continue to move forward. And so my client, the buyer, wants to move forward with this. He says, look, they had the home on the market all this time. We put in an offer, we negotiated. Yeah, we want to move forward with the sale. And so that's what I inform the agent on the other side. He's not so happy with that we want to move forward. He just expected we'd say, okay, no problem. See you later. We'll find another house. That's the house my clients wanted. So I'm trying to book a home inspection. And every date we try to book gets turned down. I call the listing agent and I said, listen, we're trying to get a home inspection, but you keep turning down every date we ask for. And he says that the tenant is difficult and it's so hard, and the tenant keeps saying no, no, no. Now, during our visit, when we were showing the property, I met the tenant. He seemed like a pleasant guy, accommodating. It seemed surprising that the tenant was being difficult when he was so nice during showings. But I said, listen, we need to get in. And so I'm asking for more dates. They keep getting turned down. So I sent an email to the agent. I copied his broker of record and his manager, his office manager. And I said, listen, we have an agreement in place here, and seller and buyer agreed to the buyer doing a home inspection. We are trying to fulfill the home inspection condition, but it's from the seller side that we keep getting turned down. If it helps, I will go directly to the tenant and negotiate a time. But we need to fulfill our condition, and the seller is stopping us. The seller's side is stopping us. About an hour after that email, the agent calls me and says, okay, you can go at this time. And it happens to be on the very last day of that home inspection condition. We're just excited to be able to get in time. So we take the date and we show up for the home inspection. I'm there, my buyer clients are there, and the home inspector is there. And when I knock on the door to get in, the tenant answers the door. And I say, hey, thank you so much for accommodating. I understand you have a busy schedule. We tried to get in earlier. And he says, what busy schedule? I'm on holidays. I'm free as a bird. And I said, oh, but we booked multiple appointments for earlier in the week. They kept getting turned down. He goes, not by me. We already had a home inspection earlier in the week. I said yes to that, and now I'm saying yes to this one. I said, what do you mean you had a home inspection earlier in the week? He goes, yeah, there was somebody else here doing a home inspection. I go, you sure it was a home inspection? He goes, yeah, the guy had his truck parked in the driveway. It said home inspections, and there was the company there. And so I called the agent. We started our home inspection, but I kind of stepped aside and called the listing agent. I said, hey, was there another home inspection here during the week? And he says, no, it was probably just the landlord that was there. But the tenant was pretty clear. It wasn't the landlord. It was a home inspection that was there. So anyways, we carry on with our home inspection. There was a few minor details that needed to be sorted out as a result of the home inspection. Nothing too serious. And in my experience, most sellers are okay with dealing with minor items if it's going to make the buyer happy and if it's going to proceed and firm up the transaction. So we asked, hey, we got a few of these little tiny things that need to be sorted out. And they refused, the seller side refused to do anything that we had asked for. And I thought it's a little like, we're not asking for a lot here. We'll firm up if you just take care of these minor things. And they said, no. If you're not happy, don't firm up. We'll give you a mutual release. I'm like, man, here we go again. First it was the seller doesn't want to sell anymore. Then we couldn't book a home inspection. Then we get in and we found out the tenant is super accommodating, and they kept saying, no, the tenant's not accommodating. And now they're not doing these simplest things. I've been doing this for a long time. And in my experience, there's two reasons a seller is not accommodating or a seller tries to get out of a deal. One is if something monumental has happened in the seller's personal situation that selling really, really doesn't make sense anymore. And the timing sucks when you have an agreement in place, but the seller just absolutely cannot sell and wants out of the deal. And there's real life things that can happen. It's very rare, but it can happen. The other reason a seller tries to get out of the deal is if they've received a better offer. And I can't say 100% for sure that was the case in what I was just explaining to you, but I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what happened. The seller has received a better offer and is doing everything possible for my client to back out of the deal. Look, let me leave you with this. Sometimes you're dealing with people that will tell you what their intentions are, and it's the truth. And other times, what they're telling you is nowhere near what the truth is. You've got to figure out their intentions by their actions. Their actions will always tell you what their true intentions are. If you think this video can help somebody please pass it along. And if you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. City of Toronto. Freehold market is what we're looking at. Detached average sold price, semis, towns. I do have condos here just to give you a reference, but in this show we're focused on the freehold market, mostly the detached market for the City of Toronto. But when we look at average prices for detached semis and towns, and I've got 3 months on the board here, it should not be a shocker to anybody. Overall, prices are trending down. Let's start with detached properties for week ending August 13. 117 detached properties were sold. 18 of those sold at $2 million or more. So the amount of properties selling at $2 million or more, there's fewer of those. That's trending down. Sales since the end of May, sales overall have been trending down. Now, sales are up from the previous week. If you recall, and I'm trying to say this without a smirk on my face, the previous week was a long weekend. Sales often, not every long weekend, but often, sales are fewer on long weekends. And that was the previous week. So yes, we're up, but overall, sales are trending downward. Average sold price is $1,460,000. It's up a little bit from the previous week, but overall, average sold price has been trending down. $1,460,000 is 8% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,175,000 is 11% lower than the same week a year ago. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. So the regular average price and median price trending down. Just another data point is the 4-week moving average also shows prices are trending downward. 117 were sold, 20 of those, so 17% sold at list price or more. Listings, well, listings overall were trending down, but they are up over the last couple of weeks. Active listings is trending down, which is an important data point to understand, but we do have fewer sales. The amount of properties available for sale are fewer also. But a percentage point that I often look at to kind of, if you look at just active listings on its own, just tells you how many properties are available for sale. But you really got to look at that number in conjunction with, well, how many are we actually buying? And the percentage that are being sold for week ending August 13 is 4.7%. That's not such a high percentage. There's lots of properties. If you look at it this way, if we round 4.7% up to 5%, that means there's 95% of the properties that did not sell during the week. It's not that great when you look at it that way. So yes, there's fewer properties available for sale. There's also fewer buyers, fewer sales, and there's only 4.7% actually selling. Months of inventory overall has been climbing. We're now sitting at 4.9 months of inventory. And that's the whole city of Toronto for detached properties only. Let's look at things from a perspective of still the city of Toronto detached properties, but broken down into 9 different sections. And if we say that for the whole city, only 4.7% of all properties sold, well, let's look at the different neighborhoods. East York, Riverdale, when we look at how many are available for sale, active listings is 159, 8 sold. Well, 5% of those properties available for sale actually sold. High Park, only 1.3% actually sold. That's it, 1.3. Rounded, that's 1% only. That means 99% are still available for sale 1 week to the next. Etobicoke area, higher percentage, 5.9% sold. Etobicoke a bit more active. Midtown, 3.2% sold, which is lower than the city's average. Scarborough, 6.6% sold, one of the more active parts of the city. Let's look at detached properties from a perspective of 3 bedrooms versus 4 bedrooms. This is for 3 bedrooms, 51 detached 3-bedroom properties sold for week ending August 13, but sales are trending down. Average sold price for the 3-bedroom is $1,137,000. Those prices are trending down. I've only kind of put a line over the last few months, but you can come all the way back here to March. Since March, average price, big difference, 1,137 now. It was hovering around high 1.4s, 1.5 back in March. versus the same week a year ago, 1137 is 13% lower. Here's 4 bedrooms, 37 4-bedroom properties sold. These are detached properties. The average sold price is $2,105,000. $2,105,000 is 4% higher than the same period a year ago. For most of the weeks, the average price is a bit lower. This week shows it's a bit higher. And when we compare the two, 3 bedrooms is down here, 4.4 months of inventory. 4 bedrooms has a 6 months of inventory. And sure, the price is a big difference, going from $1,137,000 to $2,105,000. The difference rounds up to $1 million. It's $968,000 is the difference between the two average sold price of 3 bedrooms versus 4 bedrooms. Let's look at semi-detached properties. For week ending August 13, 34 of them sold. 3 sold at $1.5 million or more. Sales are trending down. Average sold price also trending down. It's currently sitting at $1,111,000. $1,111,000 is 4% lower year over year. The median price of $1,045,000 is 5% higher. Prices seemed for semis for a while now to be trending up, but over the last, say, month and a half or so, prices have been trending downward. Months of inventory looks like it's climbing. We're now at 3.6 months of inventory. Here's townhouses. These are freehold townhouses. 15 sold, 1 sold at $1.5 million or more. Sales are trending down. Average sold price also trending down. We're now at $1,021,000 as the average sold price. $1,021,000 is 6% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,030,000 is 2% higher than the same week a year ago. But overall, average price and median price, and also looking at the 4-week moving average, overall trending down for freehold townhouses. Months of inventory sitting at 3.6 for townhouses. Here's a quick summary. Detached, 4.9 months of inventory. 3 beds, 4.4. 4 beds, 6 months of inventory. Semis and towns both at 3.6 months of inventory. Look, overall, you're probably going to experience a balanced market out there. Overall, if we look at the chart here right now, because between 3 months and 5 months is a balanced inventory, is a balanced market, I should say. But your neighborhood, as I showed you on the map, will have something to say with how active it is. Neighborhood, price point. There's entry-level freehold properties that are a bit more competitive than, say, your $2 or $3 million detached property. Price point, neighborhood, how many properties are available for sale in that category will all play into, do you have a ton of time and the property going to sit out there for a while? Or should you hurry up and put in an offer? Or are you going to get a quick sale? All that will determine whether it's a balanced market or it's a buyer's market. Not too many sellers markets out there right now. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.